And Amazon's Jeff Bezos is warning of impending disaster and urging Americans to take preventative action. Think things in the economy haven't gotten bad enough yet? Maybe you need to rethink that assumption. Currently, it seems like somebody smashed the financial system. Some of the worst financial disasters ever have occurred in the last few months. Businesses are struggling to pay rent because consumer debt is at an all-time high. Moreover, bankruptcies have been increasing. Numerous economists have stopped predicting a recession because they are seeing its effects already. Even Amazon's Jeff Bezos is warning of impending disaster and urging Americans to take preventative action. Nonetheless, the story isn't the same in politics, with some world leaders pretending as though everything is just fine, even though they may be putting at risk the financial security of their citizens. To put it frankly, things are not looking good for the global financial system, but we do need to examine the numbers to get a sense of just how bad things could get. So, are we in a recession, or is a recession coming, and how bad will it be? Hey there! Welcome back to Finance Insight. In today's video, let's have a look at the numbers and try to work out how much worse could this recession be, and how would it affect the people the world over. So let's begin. Over the past year, investors around the world have lost a total of $46.2 trillion. That's right, trillion, in the stock and bond markets. Considering the total losses during the global financial crisis, GFC, of 2007 to 2008, this is a monstrously large sum. Similar yearly losses of around $2 trillion occurred during the GFC. Basically, when adjusted for inflation, the current situation is roughly 20 times worse. Next, the level of personal debt in the United States is at an all-time high. With credit card interest rates at all-time highs, fewer people are able to afford to repay the nation's $31 trillion in debt. In other words, criminal activity and individual bankruptcies are on the rise. The percentage of Americans who are underwater on their mortgages is one of the most frightening figures regarding consumer debt. Mortgage defaults are on the rise worldwide, visible in countries as diverse as Australia, the United Kingdom, Iceland, the United States, and elsewhere. Lastly, people are heavily dipping into their savings accounts as a result of the current economic uncertainty. The United States individual savings rate recently hit 3.1%, the second lowest level in the country's history. Think that's everything? Unfortunately, the business world has not been spared from economic turmoil. More than a third of American small and medium-sized businesses, SMBs, are currently late on their rent payments, with 37% of SMBs becoming delinquent in October. In Canada, that figure is well over 40%. Nearly half of the restaurants could not pay their rent last month, making it the hardest-hit industry. But the economy is not only affecting small companies, it is also affecting the big ones. After losing $1 trillion in market value, Amazon made history, which could result in as many as 1,000 layoffs at the company this week. Meta has already laid off 11,000 people, or about 13% of its workforce, and Zuck has lost around $100 billion of his own money. Roughly the same proportion of Stripe's workforce has also left the company. Elon Musk, the new owner of Twitter, just laid off 50 employees and warned that the company may go bankrupt unless it receives additional funding. Thus, obviously, this looks terrible for both individuals and businesses. However, there are some politicians who would have you believe that your claims are false. The fact that many politicians are acting as though things are not so bad instead of preparing their people for a serious recession is now the biggest issue. Most economic experts agree that a recession is currently underway or is imminent, one that looks to get much worse as we move into 2023. And the International Monetary Fund has warned that things will get even worse before they get better. According to Jeff Bezos, you should batten down the hatches. Despite the fact that he makes his living off of people buying as much as they can, he has urged customers to put off major purchases for the time being, that they may have financial resources available should they become unemployed in the not-too-distant future. According to NPR, it was difficult to find a single CEO who is eagerly anticipating a recession, but it appears that most CEOs agree with Bezos. Therefore, everyone except many in politics believes things will deteriorate further. Even though traditionally a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters with no economic growth, President Joe Biden recently claimed that the United States is not currently in recession, just like what the United States went through recently. Apparently, no one else in the world's leadership ranks is aware of the warnings. After the economy nearly collapsed only a few weeks ago, the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, has suggested that things are stable. This is a glaring issue in political life. As usual, the people aren't being told the truth about what's happening, so they can't get ready for it. And instead, they're treated to a big dramatic show. So here's the big one. If the recession continues and things get even worse in 2023, what should we do then? Just how bad could it get, anyway? No one can say with any certainty whether or not a recession will worsen or end. If the global economy continues to contract or remain flat, we can foresee a number of negative outcomes. First, layoffs are expected to continue, as the least valuable workers are the first to be let go in most companies. Obviously, this causes a general increase in joblessness and probably some slight increase in poverty as a whole. A decrease in consumer spending and subsequent loss of revenue for businesses is an inevitable consequence of a depressed economy. The GDP of any nation will decline as a consequence of this. Moreover, it's not all bad news per se. Some of the price increases we've seen over the past 2 years will likely eventually subside as interest rates rise and inflation falls, as shown by historical precedent. I want to leave you with a more sobering thought about the situation that we are in, one that is driven less by the mind and more by the heart. It's easy to get lost in the numbers during times of economic stress. The numbers that show a rise in living costs, a rise in unemployment, a drop in available jobs, and a drop in GDP are indicative of a recession. Today, it's simple to blame businesses and government officials alike for everything that ails the country. At times, we fail to remember that behind these figures are actual people. People like me and you, hardworking humans, whose jobs might be eliminated and who would be left with no safety net if they lost their income. Families who may have to work multiple minimum wage jobs to make ends meet, and who may be unable to provide adequately for their children for several months or even years. For some, the inability to keep up with mortgage payments could lead to homelessness, and for others, the loss of their retirement funds or other investments could be catastrophic in the face of unforeseeable circumstances. To sum up, you shouldn't treat any of these figures as meaningless abstracts. They could very well apply to you as you read this very sentence. There will be real people affected by the decisions we make. In addition to the monetary cost, there is a truly meaningful human cost. Keep in mind that we are the most dynamic species and that we were designed to live in communities that help each other out. Humanity, let's get back to basics by doing whatever we can to help each other out in this time of need. I appreciate you taking the time to check this out. There is also a video that is currently being displayed on the screen that is talking about the financial leaders who have predicted the upcoming recession a lot earlier than anybody actually did. So if you wanted to watch, there is a link on the screen right now. Join us and share your thoughts on how you plan to weather the economic downturn by subscribing and leaving a comment below. Have a great time, and we'll catch you at the next one.